Hi, my name is Hannah and I'm an artist and illustrator studying illustration here in Osaka, Japan. And today I just want to talk about how I try to get by with my art classes, and I also started a part-time job about almost 2 months ago, so I work at nights and on weekends, and I also try to do my own art side hustles. But even with all of these things, I would say that more than half of my paycheck goes to rent. So we'll just talk about all of the different things like that in this video. So first, I just want to talk about studying in Japan. So somebody asked me sort of how it is communicating with my teachers and being able to understand everything in Japanese. So basically, I studied Japanese for a really long time, on and off, since I was 19. So my level is decent, but when I first came here, I definitely didn't understand a lot of what the teachers were saying. But since it's art classes and I've had so much experience with that, I was able to kind of just get by seeing what other people were doing. And then when I had to talk to the teacher, like if I was explaining a sketch or something, I did struggle a lot, but the teachers were generally really kind and patient, so that hasn't really been much of a struggle. I will say that I still miss things. They'll be announcing something or talking about something and I'm so busy in my own world that I'm not really paying attention at all. Whereas if it were in my native language English, I think I would be soaking in that, passively, where I'm not doing it when it's Japanese. So I have missed a few deadlines, or almost missed a few deadlines, except that I've noticed something is going on and then I'll ask another student, I'll ask another international student, and then I'll have to get on something. So that does happen. And then in terms of art assignments, it's just been really fun. I think the biggest struggle has really been this second year. They've been really trying to emphasize what we really want to make. So we do have much more practical classes, but we have a few classes where they're really like, well, what do you want? What is your idea? And sometimes as a creative person, having absolutely no sort of boundaries can be making it harder. You can really try to get into, well, I like this, I like this, I like that. But what do I really like? What do I really want to talk about? What's my favorite thing to do? And that can be actually a little bit hard sometimes for, I think, any creative person when you have absolutely no restrictions. But in terms of coming up with ideas, it's not been very hard for me. I can still come up with them. I think a lot of it is because of what I talked about in my last video. I've made challenges for myself to just come up with lots of ideas. So nowadays, I can always, if I'm struggling, I can look back at my old work, and I have things, there's a big storage space now in my mind where I can go to get ideas. But the language thing continues to definitely be a bit of an issue, and it also is a bit of a barrier, I would say, with other classmates, but part of that is also because I think I'm older and they're younger, and it's just harder to have as many things in common. But I feel like I feel closer to other international students that are from Taiwan in my class. So you still figure it out, you get by, but if you are someone who really needs to have a big social circle, you might have to push yourself a little bit harder to really become friends or friendly with your classmates, because people tend to be pretty shy. I would say pretty shy, pretty quiet, until you kind of maybe break through with some more outspoken people, which there is a couple of much more outgoing Japanese classmates. And, you can do it, but if that's something that you are worried about, I think that is a valid concern. But for me, I feel very comfortable just sort of in my own time, spending my time by myself, so it's not as big of an issue for me. But yeah, communication can be a problem, but you figure it out, you get by, you say you're sorry, and everybody is pretty chill with it. At least in my experience so far, it hasn't been a problem. Okay, so next I want to talk about trying to get by financially as a student or an international student in Japan. So originally I had a lot of money saved from working for 5-6 years in Korea. So I had money saved, and I also had like the pension that I was able to take out, which should be going towards retirement, but I spent it. And so I had money saved. So that was in the beginning, going towards tuition and living. And then I spent way too long not really looking for a job or figuring out to make money until it got a little dire. And I ended up going back to teaching English online on a platform called italki. But even though I got students on there and I enjoyed some of my students quite a lot, English teaching is really not what I want to do. And even though I make dollars on there and per hour, it's more than working a job in Japan, I really just ended up spending all my time at home, and I'm not really getting integrated more into the society here. So I ended up looking for a job about 2 months ago, and I got hired at a hotel. So it's a very like casual hotel. It's not like super fancy or anything. It's called a business hotel. But it's been fun. I've worked there for almost 2 months now, and I feel like I'm really glad that I finally got a part-time job. I wish I had gotten one sooner. On an international student visa in Japan, you can work part-time, I think, after your first month. And the maximum amount of hours per week are 28 hours per week. I don't work quite that many. I work between 22 to 23, which is still a little bit too much for me right now, quite frankly. But that's been, I think, a much more interesting way of spending my time and making money than staying at home and teaching English. Even though I do like meeting people all around the world, I feel like now I'm meeting coworkers who live here. I'm learning more about Osaka. I'm being able to practice Japanese in an environment with some of my coworkers, but also with guests. So that's been really fun. And I used a website called YOLO Japan to find my job, but there's a lot of other sites. That one just happens to be in English. I think it's been pretty fun. It's been a good experience. However, I work probably about 4 to 5 times a week recently, so I work both on Saturday and Sunday, and then maybe twice during the week at night. It's wearing me a little thin, I'm not gonna lie. I think there's a part of me that sort of regrets that I didn't kind of push myself and really grind more in my 20s when I feel like I had more energy and there was a little bit more promise. I don't like to say that things are ever too late, but I feel kind of like I have to really grind out now, and that's not something that I had really thought about in my 20s, that if I didn't grind then it would still come kind of eventually. So the minimum wage, I think I'm only making a little bit more. It's 1,120 yen per hour, but they also pay a little bit for your transportation, which seems to be very common here, so that's nice. Your transportation fee does get covered. And overall, I would really recommend, if you are an international student in Japan, even if you have enough money to survive, consider getting a part-time job, maybe even just for 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week. Some jobs are really flexible with like very small hours. This job, actually, some of my Japanese coworkers only work like 4 times an entire month. This is not related to the part-time job, but I got kind of lucky in my point of view. My first year, I got very good grades and good attendance. So I was able to qualify for a scholarship called JASO. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's JASSO. So I will be getting soon, I haven't started getting the money yet, but I'll be getting money from JASO soon. And that'll supplement my, part-time job income quite a lot. So I'll actually be able to, I think, maybe even save a little bit of money. So yes, part-time job has been really tough to balance with the schoolwork, but I didn't mention it in the schoolwork section, but most schoolwork we do in class. There isn't a lot of homework. When I went to art school in the United States, it was almost all done at home, and then in class we had critiques. I talk about this actually in my comparison video, which I'll link. But here, pretty much all of the artwork is done in class, and then we ask for help or, check-ins with the teacher inside the class period. Of course, if you're not really spending the class period well, or you're just working a little more slowly, or you change your mind, or like me, just some of the assignments are a little harder, I have to do some of the work at home. But overall, I'm able to get most things done in class, and that makes a huge difference when it comes to doing a part-time job. Lastly, I kind of want to talk about my kind of side hustles, I guess. Long term, I really hope that I can be a freelance illustrator and not have to work for a company. Short term, if I want to stay in Japan, I do need to find a job here, especially for a work visa, and I honestly don't think I'm ready to do full-time freelance. So I'm kind of mashed two things together in this, which is one, I have been doing job searching, and that's been really hard to juggle with school and with work, because I feel like those things are urgent, time constraint things that I have to go to, I have to be at, whereas looking for a job and doing my freelance work are things that are like, well, I have to either look for the jobs or look for the freelance work and make the effort in my own time, which has been really difficult to do. So it's already mid-June and I've only applied to one company, which is really dangerous. In Japan, they start hiring a year in advance, really. So you start work in March, and then so you get hired usually in the spring or summer-ish, maybe fall of the year before. So I'll be graduating in 2026, so I need to be looking for jobs ASAP now. So that's terrifying. I have not been managing that well. If you're curious to learn more about how to find creative jobs in Japan, I'm happy to make a video just about that. But basically the sites that I use are called Mynavi, MYNAVI, and Vivivito, or Vivivit, which is VIVIVIT. So I'll link both of those in the description and I'll put them here. But yeah, I've only applied to one company, terrifying to me. But for freelance, I do get lucky sometimes. So over the past 2 years, I've had 5 projects with Honest History magazine, which is a children's magazine about history that's located in Los Angeles. So those can be like pretty big projects for me, like from 8 to 12 illustrations, and they can be a pretty big lump sum of money. And so some of them I did when I was still in Korea, but I've had 3 projects since I've been living here in Japan, and each time they financially saved me quite a lot. I'll show some examples of my Honest History magazine work. It's some of not my favorite work, I'll be honest. I wouldn't tell the magazine that, even though I've tried really hard to make it my style and my way, in ways that I like. I still am usually just not quite proud of it, and that disappoints me, and I don't know how to fix that yet. So Honest History is one big help. A next thing that I do occasionally make money from is I have my work currently on a wallpaper company website called Muse Wall Studio. And that one is just purely if people buy it, I make money. So some months, the very first month, I think I made $3. And then there'll be, I think I've had 2 or 3 months where I made $0. But then I had 1 month where I made like $150, which is a lot in yen. It's still not a lot of money, I know, but in yen, and basically with it just being on a website and me not having to push it in any way is still very nice. So, and it's personally work that I'm more proud of, so I'm happy to see it there. And I'm happy to see it out in the world. And once I do maybe get all of my job applications out, at least 10, I'd like to refocus work in making new patterns for Muse Wall Studio as wallpaper, because it's a partnership that I'd really like to invest more time in. And then a recent licensing partnership that I have is with Stupell Industries, which is a wall art company. And I've noticed just recently that I have my wall art. I licensed it a while ago, but licensing can take kind of a long time to get into production. And that was the case with them. So I licensed it, I think, over 6 months ago, but only recently I've noticed that I can see my work on Amazon and on Michaels. So, but I think it's similar to Muse Wall Studio, which is they only print it if somebody purchases it. So I don't believe that it's like an in-store purchase available. And I haven't gotten a check from them yet. They pay, I think it's quarterly. It must be quarterly, every 3 months. So it hasn't been a time yet where it's been in production where it's sold. So hopefully I will hear back from them. At least I will check in by the end of June, because that should be my first quarter when things were available, and I'm hoping that I'll at least have made some money from that. In addition to those, I have done a couple of things with these nonprofit organizations called the Greats and Fine Acts. So I definitely recommend keeping an eye on competitions and things like that, where I think a lot of people don't compete and you have a good chance of winning. So when I get these projects, it makes a huge difference, but since my rent is high and my paycheck is low, it still kind of ends up getting eaten away over time. So I need to figure out a way. I think once I get the scholarship, my lifestyle will be able to balance out a little bit more. But basically, that's how I've been getting by in Japan. I'm doing the best I can with the language stuff. I am actually taking the Japanese language proficiency test in July, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fail. I'll be taking level 1, which is the most difficult one, and I haven't been making time to study. I studied a bit in April, and then I started the job, and I haven't been able to. I could have. Okay, I don't like saying haven't been able to, but I haven't been prioritizing studying. Instead, I've been prioritizing just sort of being healthy and figuring out how to manage all of these different tasks. And I would like to at least, put more time into Japanese study, at least for interviews in the future, once I hopefully get some interviews for jobs. So Japanese is something that I'm always working on. Like I said, the art classes themselves are not something that I'm currently struggling with. I would say those are the highlights of my days. It's the most fun part of what I do here. The job has been interesting, but I've been able to figure most of it out and there haven't been many problems. And lastly, the freelance and side hustle thing is kind of on the back burner for now because I need to prioritize finding a job in Japan. So I think this video is a little bit all over the place. I'm gonna try to put captions and things like that and maybe some visuals to make this seem a little more cohesive, but I just want people to know that it is difficult and you don't have to rent an expensive place, and if you don't have a pet, that'll make it even easier. I have a coworker who lives in a share house and I'm sure it's a lot cheaper. I have another coworker who lives with her sister. So there's definitely ways to lower your cost of living, and you could get by with 28 hours a week of work. And if you got a scholarship, there's also MEXT, M-E-X-T. If you're young enough, I really recommend applying for that. So yeah, I have class in I should go now. So thanks for watching my video and have a great day. Bye!